Hector Gomez, good morning. Welcome in on a Wednesday, first Wednesday of 2022, midway through the week. It's all gravy. It's all downhill from here. Luisa Alanis, good morning. Joe Garcia, formerly known as Average Joe Garcia, welcome. Sam Tobias, welcome in. Tracy Bogert, the chairman of the Bexar County MAGA Republicans. Big day for him tomorrow as he is celebrating the 1-year anniversary of the insurrection. I'm sure you'll have some special cakes and, wrist ties, handcuffs, a noose for Mike Pence, perhaps. Sam Tobias says, "All praise Thomas Wade Landry." Hashtag, how about them Cowboys? I'm not exactly overly optimistic just yet. Maybe they'll shock me. Woo! Steve DiRocco, good morning. Steve DiRocco, the original rock, the original Italian stallion. Antonio Brown could be available. Good point, Tracy. With Michael Gallup down with that injury, maybe the Cowboys could add Antonio Brown for the playoff run. Woo! Here we go.
This is the Chris Duel Show.
Yeah, we covered that, Sam, yesterday, and we already know the name.
Now, Chris Duel.
Welcome in on the first Wednesday of 2022. Glory, glory, hallelujah, and praise be to the football gods on high, including, and I would say led by one, Thomas Wade Landry. Thank you, Jim Morrison. Thank you, Mr. Mojo Risen. Thank you, Lizard King, and the Doors for the intro music. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney. Jeremy Kolok is back as Soundscape Stylist. He didn't find out till last night. Jeremy was training on the Spurs game last night, along with Michael Bartlett, when he got the call, and I got the call that I would be working the first hour of 1200 WOAI's First News this morning at 5 a.m., which I just did. And that means that Dave Ayler had to do the rest of that show. So Jeremy Kolok joins us. Always good to have him. We'll meet him here in a moment. Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, because we have a live video feed, I can see you are wearing your Dallas Cowboys hoodie. You are in the spirit. You are in the mood. You are optimistic that America's team, the Dallas Cowboys, are going to be ready to go in just under 2 weeks for the playoffs. And, of course, we celebrate Saturday night at Philadelphia against the Eagles in a divisional clash. And still a mathematical shot the Cowboys could move up out of that number 4 slot. It's unlikely, but it's possible. Shannon, how are you on this Wednesday morning?
Chris, I wouldn't be a Cowboys fan if I didn't one day feel like they're one and done in the playoffs and the next day feel like they're going to turn around and surprise everybody and be America's team that we once knew and loved and expect to see make repeat appearances in the Super Bowl. And I think it starts this year in 2022. This is our season. It's going to be fine. There's nothing to worry about. We're going to play the rest of our games this season like we did against Washington, and we're just going to forget about what happened against the Cardinals.
Exactly. It won't be, we're going to pretend Kyler Murray is Taylor Heineke, and then we're going to win that game. Then we're going to go to Lambeau, and we're going to pretend Aaron Rodgers is Taylor Heineke, and then we're going to go to Tampa and pretend Tom Brady is Taylor Heineke. And we're going to win. And you know, there's that old adage, a broken clock is right twice a day. One of these days, you know, the Dallas Cowboys so often disappoint us, especially come playoff time. One of these days, they're going to the law of averages says they're going to shock the world. I remember, and I brought it up last week, was the anniversary of the Hail Mary pass in 1975. Granted, that was a Tom Landry coach team, and granted, Roger Staubach was the quarterback, but that was a wild card team. In that season, the Cowboys had 12 rookies. They were coming off a non-playoff 8-6 season. They were not expected to do much in the playoffs. Minnesota was going to beat them in the first round, and then the Hail Mary pass. Then the next round of the playoffs, the Rams had the best record in the NFC. They were 12-2. Cowboys had to keep going on the road. So the Rams were certainly going to beat the Cowboys. Cowboys beat them 37-7 to go to Super Bowl 10 against the Steelers. And then certainly the Steelers were going to destroy the Cowboys and all those 12 rookies in the Super Bowl. And it was a 4-point Super Bowl, 21-17. And Roger even threw a pass at the very end, what would have been Hail Mary 2, hit Piercy Howard in the hands, and he couldn't catch it. But it was a great Super Bowl, and the Cowboys just barely lost. So, Shannon, what I'm saying is, now I'm going delusional. Maybe this is the year when people like me, long-suffering Dallas Cowboys fans, do not expect them to do well, and then they shock us and shock the world and go deep and maybe return to the Super Bowl.
And you know what? It's all coming together because, as you shared with me yesterday, some Troy Aikman news, which is pretty exciting stuff. I think he knows something is up because I think he's crafted something that's works great at parties, specifically beer.
Yes,
and, a Troy Aikman beer to celebrate a Cowboys victory. I don't know how else you would celebrate.
You know, the more I think about this story, Shannon, and we find out yesterday, Troy Aikman is rolling out his own beer. It's called 8, which was his number. It's going to be a light beer. How brilliant, Shannon. I'm a Cowboy fan. I want to drink some Troy Aikman beer on game days. And apparently it's going to be rolled out, at least initially, only in the state of Texas. Cool. Originally, in the next few weeks, it's going to be rolled out on tap in bars. And then in March, it's going to show up in cans, reportedly, you know, HEB and elsewhere. If you think about all the beer that is consumed, and I personally consume about 3% of the beer in America every week, for Troy Aikman to roll out his own beer, it's. And I was talking about this down the hall. I did the first hour of the morning news on WOAI out of San Antonio this morning. And the person I was talking with, Charity McCurdy, the news anchor, said, well, what if it's not good? What if it's weak? What if it doesn't take? And I said, this is Troy Aikman beer. Shannon, I can't imagine Troy Aikman would have allowed this. I mean, because he's got such a reputation. If this was a mediocre beer, that wouldn't be good. I don't think Troy would allow it. I believe, and I'm a little disappointed you and I, Shannon, were not called upon to be taste testers in the production process for the new Troy Aikman beer. But I got to feel, if Troy is going to put his name on it, I got a feeling it's going to be some pretty darn good beer.
Yeah, well, I'm sure if anything, it tastes like victory, Chris. If it's going to taste like anything, it's got the number 8 on there. It's going to taste like victory. I did some diving into this. He's been working on this with his partners for 2 years now. So I'm curious if, like, you know, he's stuck at home. There's a lot of people who do like home brewing in their garage and do beer like that. I wonder if with COVID and everything going on, he's like, what project can I throw myself into? And he says, you know, he's a fan of beer, and he's specifically a fan of light beers. This beer gonna just be 90 calories, I think 2.5 carbs. So he says, you know, his options are limited, which I find a little strange because I do believe Miller Lite is the official beer of the Dallas Cowboys. So I'm not sure how the franchise feels about it, but He's made something that he can enjoy and hopes that others will enjoy as well, because I think carbs and calories are things, that's how we sell things these days, especially when it comes to alcohol, which you're hoping people consume more of. A lot of people choose not to, not just because of the effects of alcohol on your brain, but because of the effects it could have on your body, right? We don't want a beer belly. We're all trying to get rid of the COVID-15, so you don't want to add on to that. So why not have a Troy Aikman 90-calorie number 8 beer? And the fact that he's been doing this for so long, and this isn't his first foray into, I guess, the food area, the food and beverage area. I don't know if you've been to Texas Live next to
I have not.
The AT&T Stadium. It's an incredible, like, multi-tiered restaurant bar atmosphere, and he's got a restaurant in there called Troy's. Great burgers, things of that nature. So I'm sure it'll be one of the first places where his new beer appears. And a couple of years ago, apparently he was trying to open like 50 plus Dunkins, which I'm obviously a fan of Dunkin'. It never came to fruition. I don't know if that was a COVID thing, but he seems to be really into this. So I'm excited to try it. Like you, upset we weren't part of the initial taste testing process, but maybe there's a way we can get some promotional beer to taste it for the rest of the world, because obviously our taste buds and what we think about it matters most.
Well, and you just said it, and if they don't have it as a catchphrase, it's a great catchphrase. Tastes like victory. That should be the catchphrase. Troy Aikman, 8 beer, tastes like victory. Reminiscent of Apocalypse Now, when Robert Duvall is smelling napalm in the morning, and he says napalm smells like victory. Wow. Troy Aikman with his own beer. We will keep an eye on that. We will certainly taste test that as soon as humanly possible. Speaking of sports in Dallas, Shannon, you, and I still like you, but you're a Dallas Mavericks fan. I'm a Spurs fan. Tough night last night for the Spurs. We'll get into it, by the way. Voice of the Spurs, Bill Schöning, going to join us at 8:05 as he always does on Wednesdays. We love having Bill on board. We talk about Spurs and a lot more with Bill Schöning. But tonight at the American Airlines Center in Dallas, your boy Dirk Nowitzki, after tonight's game against the Golden State Warriors, and I'm a little wondering why they picked the game against the Warriors. I think the Spurs, when they do a jersey retirement, they usually pick a team they're confident they're going to beat. I mean, it's going to be after the game, and either way, it'll be great. I'm sure it'll be meaningful and moving. Everybody loves Dirk Nowitzki. Even I, a Spurs fan, I love Dirk Nowitzki. But if you get beat at home by Golden State, just a little bad taste in your mouth as they set up the chairs on the court. Mark Cuban and everybody comes out. But Shannon, how excited are you? How cool is it that Dirk Nowitzki, the big German, is going to have his number 41 retired tonight after the Dallas Mavericks game?
I mean, about time, Chris. It's about time. I don't know why we knew when his last game was at the American Airlines Center. Why did we not just lift the jersey off of him after the final whistle blew and just went ahead and threw it up there? We already knew this was going to happen. They named the street after him right outside the stadium. Like, come on. This guy was meant to be hung in the rafters, and he was trending all day yesterday, people talking about their favorite Dirk moments. Obviously, him bringing a championship to Dallas was huge for that team, and kind of mentoring the young gun that is Luka Doncic along the way throughout his career. It's super exciting. Again, like you, I like to question a little bit the timing as far as playing against the Warriors, but Steph Curry in the house, a guy who a lot of people praise. He's one of the faces of the league. Maybe they're saying, hey, let's remember some of these other guys. Let's show Steph Curry, the guy we had as the face of our team, in case he forgot. In case he forgot about Mr. Dirk Nowitzki, we can show him some highlights at the end of the game today.
And I think it's interesting, and I was just thinking about this as well. It's a game against the Golden State Warriors, which is going to sell out anyway. One of the things the Spurs do, like when they retire Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, they pick a game that's not a tremendous opponent. I think last time it was when they retired Manu's jersey, it was the Cleveland Cavaliers. And Cleveland's winning this year, but the year they chose the Cavs weren't that good because you sell more tickets. It's like, oh, I gotta go to the Manu Ginobili jersey retirement. So the Spurs go, yeah, well, you're gonna have to come see the Cleveland game. So interesting that the Dallas Mavericks pick the team right now with the best record in the NBA and a team that has been a storied franchise, certainly through the Steph Curry era, the Golden State Warriors. I can't name them. Maybe you can, Shannon. I did hear this morning it is the 4th Mavericks jersey to be retired. Can you name the other 3 Dallas Mavericks jerseys without Googling?
I cannot.
As we see you typing on your keyboard?
I cannot. And that's exactly what I'm doing.
I'm guessing Rolando Blackman. I'm going to guess Rolando Blackman. Who's the blonde guard who now does broadcasting with them? He was around at the very beginning. Forgetting who that guy was. Anyway, I can't name the other 2.
Brad Davis.
That's it.
Derek Harper.
Brad Davis. That's the guy. Brad Davis, Derek Harper, Rolando Blackman.
And
that's it.
List, Kobe Bryant. I don't understand that. Maybe that's an honorary thing done by Mark Cuban, but okay. It does make me quite, because you mentioned Ginobili and obviously Tony Parker and Tim Duncan's numbers have all been retired too. And I want to say I remember when they had those moments, they had those teammates, the big 3 were there to support each other and to talk about each other in those moments. And that's part of what made them such a must-get ticket for those nights. I don't know who's going to be there for Dirk. I mean, Jason Kidd, obviously coaching the Mavericks. That'll be nice, right? He was there part of that championship run. But Steve Nash, now coaching the Nets, they're a little preoccupied this evening with the game themselves.
Yeah.
So because that would be, I feel like, the number one guy that you would want sitting there talking about Dirk, because they obviously had such a great run together. It'll be interesting.
Which begs the question: Why didn't Mark Cuban do this when? Why didn't Mark Cuban do this when Brooklyn was in town? It's a great point. It's a great point. All right. Well, we'll talk more about that. By the way, and we'll get into this in a little bit. Yesterday, when we learned during the show that the Washington football team would reveal the name of its team on February 2nd, 2022, my first question was, can they keep this under wraps? Can they keep it a secret until the unveiling? Apparently, the answer is no. Before we even get on the air this morning, yesterday, some industrious internet sleuths apparently figured out what the new name of the Washington football team will be. We'll tell you what that is. We'll talk about that coming up as well. Jacksonville Jaguars will have a clown out this weekend. Don't wear bags over your heads. Come as a clown and wear a big handlebar mustache to mock owner Shad Khan. We'll get into that. Lots of ground to cover. Tough loss for the Spurs last night. I mentioned Bill Schoening going to join us at 8:05. Texas Longhorns win at Kansas State yesterday. They will maintain at least their number 14 ranking, probably improve when the new rankings come out. We will say hello to our Soundscape stylist, Jeremy Kolok, who did not know he'd be working this morning until last night during the Spurs game. We'll talk with him coming up as well. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. A little bit later, the Salty Shakedown, sports history, sports birthdays, and more. Coming up next, the high five play of the day. Lots of sports to talk about between now and 9. Thanks for hanging out with us on the Chris Duel Show. Jason Paniagua. Yesterday, I did not know it was your birthday until after the show was over, Jason, or I would have wished you a happy birthday on the show. So, happy belated birthday. Yeah, Tracy Bogert with all of these scenarios necessary for the Dallas Cowboys to advance, or not advance, to get a higher seed in the playoffs. Very good, sir. All right, I'm going to grab coffee because I must. Woo! Woo! I need to edit some spots here. Let's see. Actually, I already did 3 of them. Is that correct? Yeah. So let me do that. Send those out. All right. Foamfoot 420, good morning. A lot of people wishing Jason Paniagua a happy birthday. Very, very nice. Which was yesterday. If I knew, I got home yesterday, saw on Facebook it was Jason's birthday yesterday. Joe Garcia, I like the way you think. Cowboys need to break on through to the other side. Yes, it's about freaking time. Woo! Woo! Welcome back. Little Michael Jackson for you in the morning. The original MJ. I'm not talking about Mac Jones or Michael Jordan. I'm talking about Michael Jackson. The man playing you the music this morning on this, the Chris Duel show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney. And coming up very, very shortly, your high five play of the day. But your Soundscape stylist for this morning, a man who was working the Spurs game last night and did not know that he would be on this show this morning, yet here he is. The one, the only, Jeremy Kolok. Jeremy, how are you, man?
I'm doing all right, Chris. I'm glad to be back in here with Shannon and you as always. And I understand you had you always have an early morning, but you had an earlier than normal morning today. So I'm not the only one getting last minute changes around here. It's an ever changing world inside this building, I've found.
But you've been working this show, the Mike Taylor show, UTSA basketball. Last night you were training, as you've done before, on the Spurs game. Again, dude, you need to just get an air mattress and just move into this place. You need to make this your home. You'll save a lot of money on rent. Just move in.
I've started working on management on an empty room up on the 4th floor that nobody's using.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're working something out.
It's a big building, and in the aftermath of COVID, you used to come into this parking lot, and we're in this big, gigantic building. Shannon's been here, Stone Oak Parkway and 281, pre-pandemic, and there's multiple floors here. Parking lot used to be packed. I used to go have to park way almost in the wilderness. Now there's like 17 cars in the parking lot, and everybody works from home. So yeah, there's all this room. iHeartRadio should just rent it out or just create you should just have the penthouse. The top floor should be the Jeremy Kolok penthouse.
I'm working something out. Maybe if you keep saying that over the air, then it'll really come into fruition.
Yeah, I got a lot of pull with this company, as you can tell. All right, well, we got a lot of ground to cover all morning long. We will talk. We are getting so much closer to the NFL playoffs, the final week of the NFL regular season coming up Saturday. There will be Saturday night football, including your Dallas Cowboys on Saturday night against Philadelphia. We'll get into that. We'll talk NBA and college basketball. Spurs lose their 4th in a row last night to the Toronto Raptors, 129-104. But they get DeJounte Murray back reportedly tonight against the Boston Celtics. Bill Schöning, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, going to join us just after 8 o'clock. We'll talk some Longhorn hoops as well. Longhorn men win again last night. They win at Kansas State, 70-57. Lots to cover, but right now it is time for the high five play of the day. We do this every morning at this time. Give out a high five where appropriate, where it is earned. High Five Play of the Day is brought to you by, appropriately, High Five, 2 locations in Austin. Got everything there you're looking for. Big screen TVs all over the place. Great sports on the tube. Great food, great drinks. Food specials, drink specials. And Shannon, you seem to know about the food and drink specials. Do you know what happens on a Wednesday? I know you know what happens on Taco Tuesday.
Of course I know.
But do you know what happens on a Wednesday?
It's all night happy hour on a Wednesday.
Ooh,
great
sweet.
night to get over to High Five, and also now Anderson Lane on Tuesday nights. So make your plans for next week from 7 to 9. They're now hosting trivia. I haven't played trivia in a while, but I do love a good round of trivia. So put that on your calendars as well. Tuesday nights, Anderson Lane High Five location now has trivia. Chris, you found today's High Five. I think it's exceptional. I love when we get these kind of moments between professional athletes and real people that are inspiring others. They make these great connections, and then we're lucky enough to see them and be a part of them. Today we're talking about Cowboys running back Ezekiel Elliott and a Cowboys fan by the name of Corey Borner. He actually made headlines not too long ago. He's a former football player. He's paralyzed, and his whole thing, he wants to walk again. His hashtag is #FindAWay. It's become a huge deal. Zeke Elliott wears the wristband that Corey sells with the hashtag on it. He wears that during every game. Corey actually walked across the stage to get his diploma. He doesn't walk all the time. His mission is to be back to walking more regularly. But he got the chance to meet Ezekiel Elliott on the field on Sunday, as well as Jerry Jones. And he also said he met Dak's dad. In fact, he had a great Instagram post. He said, "I inspire the world, but this moment means everything." The picture of him and Zeke meeting on the sideline. Zeke Elliott is a real one. I'm glad I inspire him in so many ways. It starts with my #FindAWay wristband he wears every game. My dreams are becoming reality. This past weekend was a true blessing. My bro Zeke Elliott got me on the field, shared my testimony and #FindAWay wristbands with the whole Dallas Cowboys team. I even got to connect with Dak Prescott's father. I appreciate Jerry Jones for having me as well. I will never give up. No matter how hard life gets, I will always stay positive. Chris, he just seems like a fantastic human being. And again, the connections that people are able to make with these athletes, and these athletes in turn kind of bringing these seemingly ordinary people's stories to life that are just incredible. It's fantastic. I love this friendship. I hope we get more of it.
It's so cool. And I'm looking at Corey Borner's website, Shannon. And first of all, before I talk a second about Corey Borner, props to Ezekiel Elliott. I give him a lot of crap, and I think well-deserved. I think Ezekiel Elliott's work ethic over the years as a Cowboy has been lacking. There was the "I'm low-key faded bro" moment. There was the moment preseason game in Seattle where he's in a head shop looking at weed. So I have my problems with Ezekiel Elliott. However, you use your platform for good. You help someone out. You inspire someone. You take some time with a man who's gone through just such adversity, Corey Borner, a high school football player who suffered a severe, catastrophic spinal cord injury. And Shannon, I don't know if you know, but I've had them on the air over the years. There's an organization out of San Antonio called Gridiron Heroes, and there was a football player here locally in the San Antonio area named Chris Canales, who, like Corey Borner, had a catastrophic spinal cord injury. And Chris and his dad, Eddie Canales, started this organization, Gridiron Heroes, to support athletes who are going through this, who have had catastrophic spinal cord injuries. They've done things like raised money to have like wheelchair equipped vans, a van that has a lift that can lift a wheelchair up and down for mobility. They've just done great things over the years. And they've been supported by great athletes and great actors and organizations over the years, helping these athletes who are going through such adversity. And Shannon, obviously, it's something we can't even imagine, to be at the height of your athletic prowess, to be playing football in this case, in the case of Corey Borner, and in the blink of an eye, in one play to have a spinal cord injury and you're paralyzed. It's darn near, if not unimaginable. So God love him. And what a story as well. If you go to Corey Borner's Twitter page, you find exactly his Twitter. It's at, and I'll tweet this out, at Lil Corey _Trill, which is not easily memorable, but we'll tweet it out so you can follow him. But Shannon, as you mentioned, he walked across the stage for his graduation to get his diploma. There's video of that. It's so moving. What a great story. Best of luck, and keep on fighting the good fight, Corey Borner, and way to go, Ezekiel Elliott. It's good to get some good Ezekiel Elliott news and something we can celebrate.
Yeah, you're right. Zeke not always shown in the best light, but I do like I remember when he became a Cowboy and he would always like toss the ball around with little kids and things like that. He's always seemed to be a really personable human being, work ethic aside. So again, high five to Zeke as well as Corey, and like I hope we see more of this friendship continue as time goes on, because I want more.
By the way, I clicked on Corey Borner's people who follow him. Twitter has people who follow Corey Borner. Interesting. Listen to some of these names. Verified accounts, by the way. Baker Mayfield follows Corey Borner. Mac Brown, Dak Prescott, Whataburger follows Corey Borner. That's cool. Johnny Manziel, there's another guy that we disparage, and he's earned it. And Steph Curry follows Corey Borner. We just talked about Steph. He'll be in Dallas tonight for the game and the Dirk Nowitzki jersey retirement. So it's cool to see these athletes, hopefully not only raising awareness for Corey Borner and for spinal cord injuries, but hopefully they're doing their part, as Zeke did, to help him out, raise awareness, and hopefully someday we will develop medical technologies that can really, really help people who are going through this.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And again, more, please, more content from this, please. And I love that Zeke wears the wristband each and every game.
Yes.
The hashtag find a way, which is Corey's motto. It's his way of life. As he, works to be able to walk again. And, we see so many athletes wearing all of their different accoutrements. Some guys wear the chains and the necklaces and the earrings, and Zeke wearing that wristband is pretty cool.
Very, very cool. Corey Borner. And again, I'll tweet out here when we get to the break. Go follow him and keep an eye on him, and also follow and support Gridiron Heroes. I've had them on the radio over the years, Chris and Eddie Canales. They do God's work and the angels' work, and we'll get them back on at some point. gridironheroes.org, because that is one of the frightening and sad and dangerous aspects of football. That's why the NFL and all levels of football, college, high school, even below that, have worked hard to watch out for helmet to helmet contact and head injuries, and trying to keep this from happening, because sadly these spinal cord injuries can happen, and they have happened. And God love everybody going through all of the adversity that brings. All right, Shannon, shifting gears, I find it funny, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Apparently the fans not satisfied with just the removal of Urban Meyer. They still are not happy with the Jacksonville Jaguars and their performance, and they're directing their angst now at owner Shad Khan, because apparently this weekend for their season finale, they are going to have a clown out. There was a time when, like the New Orleans Saints, when they were the New Orleans Aints, you would put a paper bag over your head to express your displeasure over your football team. But Jacksonville Jaguars, there's a significant number of fans as they host the Indianapolis Colts at high noon in the Central Time Zone on Sunday at TIAA Bank Field in Jacksonville. They're encouraging fans to come dressed as clowns, and not only as clowns, apparently Shad Khan, if you go Google him, he's got a very thick and distinctive handlebar mustache. So you're supposed to come dressed as a clown and be a clown with a handlebar mustache to show that you are none too happy with Shad Khan. I believe perhaps, Shannon, this might be the first ever clown out in the National Football League.
Yeah, and on Twitter already, fans of Jacksonville Jaguars have changed their avatar, their profile picture, to this clown with the handlebar mustache. I'm not sure who created it, but that's already becoming a thing prior to the game this weekend. Chris, I hate this. I am terrified of clowns. If I was someone who, like, you know, I was like, oh, I finally get to go to a game this season. It's the last one of the season. I'm just so happy I get to go watch live football. And then they were like, there's going to be a clown out. I'd be like, take it back. Give me my money. I want a refund, and I want twofold, because this is unfair and horribly, horribly wrong. I don't know if this game's going to be on TV just locally here, but I won't be watching, because I'm terrified of clowns. I will do anything to avoid them. And I like the meaning. I like the movement behind it. I don't know that this is the execution that I would have gone with. I would have gone with something else. What about the guy we talked about a few weeks ago who wore the toilet seat over his head? Wore a toilet seat to the Jags versus Texans game. And I liked that. Do that with a mustache. Call it a day.
Now, and I had to Google Shad Khan because I wanted to refresh my memory. He purchased Jacksonville in 2011, 10 years ago. At first I was thinking, okay, did he purchase them since they were in the AFC Championship and leading late in the game at Foxborough? No, he was the owner then. That was only 3 years ago, Shannon, when they were in the AFC Championship game at Foxborough with a chance to go to the Super Bowl. It's amazing how quickly that franchise has just turned. And it's amazing how quickly they've turned on Shad Khan, because he was the owner when they went deep into the playoffs 3 years ago.
Yeah, I think Urban Meyer continuing to kind of do damage, even though he has been physically removed from the team this year.
All right, we got a lot more to talk about. The Washington football team, we broke the story yesterday as it dropped that they're going to change the name officially on the 2nd of February next month. But apparently some people have done some investigating, and they believe they have found what the name is going to be. We'll tell you what the name is. We'll talk about that and more coming up. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney, Jeremy Kolok making the show go, voice of the Spurs, Bill Schoening, just after 8 o'clock. Salty Shakedown in the next hour. Don't go anywhere. It's the Chris Duel Show. Some Rolling Stones on the way out. Foamfoot 420 says Jeremy is starting to become the Iron Man of audio. Oh, I like that. The Iron Man of audio at the station. I thought I didn't get any sleep. Jeremy got me beat. I'm going to write that down, Amber. The Iron Man of audio. That has a ring to it. Foamfoot 420 calls you the Iron Man of audio. That's kind of lyrical. That's kind of got a ring to it. That could stick. That might we might have to start using that. The Iron Man of audio. Okay. Do I get coffee or do I finish editing the 3 spots I have to edit? Sam Tobias says we should send that nickname to Mike Taylor. Let's see here. Okay, I did those 2. Or did I? Did I save that one? I did. Okay. Now, I got 3 more. I'm editing 5 commercials for the Big Bib Barbecue, which is outstanding. I was there the other day, had the brisket plate with some green beans, and it was spectacular. Let's see here. Okay. Let's see. Okay. File. It's the 3rd one. Ah. All right, now, who did I send that to? Okay. Beth Settle, good morning. John Williams. John says it's a cool 39 degrees. Yeah, John, we talked about the Dirk Nowitzki jersey retirement at the top of the show. Here we go.
This is the Chris Duel Show.
90 vibes a day. Try to run, try to hide, break on to the other side.
Now, Chris Duel.
You made it to midweek. It is Wednesday, January 5th, the first Wednesday of 2022. The rest of the week is all downhill from here. In fact, the weekend begins tomorrow because on this show, we just start the weekend on Thursday because we can. Welcome in. It is the Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney. A little bit later this hour, Shannon's Salty Shakedown will also bring you this day in sports history, sports birthdays, and more. Coming up in the 8 o'clock hour, just after 8 o'clock, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Mr. Bill Schoening. Bill had the call last night as the Spurs lost in Toronto, 129 to 104. Spurs have lost 4 in a row. No bueno. They're in Boston tonight at TD Garden. Hopefully, the Spurs can get back on the winning track. The Spurs are supposed to have their best player, DeJounte Murray, back with the team tonight. He's come off the health and safety protocols, and he is supposed to join the team in Boston tonight. So hopefully that happens. We'll talk all things San Antonio Spurs. And Shannon, before we commence this 7 o'clock hour, we're looking for a nickname for Soundscape Stylist Jeremy Kolok, and because he's working around the clock, Amber on YouTube says Jeremy is starting to become the Iron Man of audio at the radio station. I thought I didn't get any sleep. Jeremy has got me beat. Shannon, what do you think of Iron Man of audio for Jeremy Kolok? I don't know yet if that's going to stick.
Yeah, I mean, I guess ultimately Jeremy gets the final vote here. I mean,
or does he?
We all know what. Do we all know what happened to Iron Man? Are we all aware what happened?
We all aware what happened to Iron Man?
Help me out. I forgot what happens to Iron Man. He does look a little like Robert Downey Jr.
He does, yes.
Yeah,
He does, yes.
I'd rather go for
The
that
sideburns.
than Iron Man, since we know Iron Man's unfortunate ending. Although Iron Man's very cool, and I said, I think I said this early on in my tenure in this little box room, that I believe that nicknames should be deemed to a person, and that someone shouldn't just decide their own nickname. So I'm open to the floor. I'm open to Amber's suggestion. I'm open to other suggestions. I'm just ready to roll with the flow, and you can call me whatever everybody sees fit.
All right. When it happens, we'll know it.
That's what I'm saying.
I think it's kind of a thing where you can't really quantify it. You can't really say, all right, we're going to create it right now. It just kind of happens. And when it happens, you know it. But I must say, just the sound of the Iron Man of audio, it's kind of lyrical. It kind of has a ring to it. So, I don't know. It's kind of up there. By the way, I did notice, welcome in, Taro Kotani, the greatest international Spurs fan. Shannon, while you were out right before the new year, we had Taro on the show live from Tokyo, and Taro just posted on the live video feed, the Spurs haven't won since I've been on the show. And Taro's the greatest international Spurs fan. So we may have a new jinx. You got the blue jersey jinx, you got the Madden curse, you got the Sports Illustrated jinx. Maybe now it's the Taro Kotani curse on the Spurs. I hope not. I'd hate to think that was the case.
Don't put that on yourself, Taro.
No,
it's okay. It's not you. It's the Spurs. And it's okay. It's just the season they're having. That's right.
Well, and the Spurs had won like something like 14 out of 18. They were really on a roll before this 4-game losing streak. And I think part of it was, and not all of it, and they got a lot of good players and it's next man up. But when DeJounte Murray went down to health and safety protocols, and they've had other guys, Doug McDermott, who just had a birthday the other day, is in health and safety protocol. Lonnie Walker IV is in health and safety protocol. So they're kind of getting hit. But as Pop said, every team is dealing with this, and some teams have it a lot worse. And I had a feeling this was coming, Shannon. Last night in Toronto, Canada is a lot more hardcore when it comes to COVID than is the United States. And if you look at the COVID numbers in the United States, maybe it's time for us to get hardcore. But Canada limited at Scotiabank Arena last night, where the Spurs played the Raptors. They limited attendance to 1,000 people, which is like a countrywide deal. If you're going to have an event, you cannot have, under these mandates, more than 1,000 people. They had gone back last year. Nobody, the NBA could not come to Canada. They didn't want those stinking Americans coming in, bringing that COVID into their country. So the Raptors played their games in Tampa. The Toronto Blue Jays didn't play in Toronto either. This year, it looked like, in 2021 at least, COVID was waning, and now you've got this Omicron variant that's just blowing up. So now Canada's back to their COVID protocols. So the Spurs, and what sucked last night, Shannon, Josh Primo, the now 19-year-old Spur, who just turned 19 on Christmas Eve. He started the season at age 18 as a rookie. He's from Toronto. It was homecoming for Josh Primo. He was going to have all kinds of friends and teammates and family. And so I imagine it was not the ideal homecoming for Josh Primo last night, which is kind of too bad.
Yeah, but given his talent, I'm sure there'll be many more visits, and hopefully COVID again will come back down, and we will eventually get a handle on it, so that we don't have to play in front of just 1,000 people, which to most people is a very large crowd, but in the NBA, not so much.
Yeah, not what you're looking for in the NBA. Josh Primo did last night. I heard Bill Schoening say this. He got a lot of, for a guy who normally comes in, late in the game in cleanup time, Pop gave him decent minutes. Like, he played 28 minutes. He scored 15 points, which is his career high. Not stellar from the field, 4 of 10. You want to be better than 50%. So 4 of 10, 2 of 6 from 3-point country. Not bad. 33% from 3 for Josh Primo last night. 5 of 6 from the line. 5 rebounds, 4 assists. That's very nice. That's a nice line. 15, 5, and 4. He had 2 block shots. So Josh Primo was very active in his native Toronto last night. But Fred VanVleet had 24 points at halftime for the Raptors. He finished with 33. Raptors hit 18 3-point shots to the Spurs 9. That's a differential of 27 points from the 3-point line, and the Spurs lost by 25. So you could argue that stat brought the game to the Raptors right there. We'll talk more about that with Bill Schoening in less than an hour. Bill's going to join us. Shannon, I do want to talk about the Washington football team. We brought that up yesterday. In fact, you brought that to our attention as it dropped during yesterday's show. The Washington football team tweeted out that they would make their big announcement of the new name of the Washington football team on 2/2/2022, which is February 2nd, now less than a month from this January 5th. So one of the first questions, Shannon, I asked you was, all right, can they keep this under wraps? Can they keep this a secret until the big reveal? And apparently not, as overnight, not even overnight, yesterday during the day, Shannon, a lot of fans, there were some finalists, among them Washington Commanders was one of them. Washington Red Tails was another one, which would have honored the Tuskegee Airmen, and Washington Admirals, and a lot of Washington fans and just, investigative internet types found out during the day yesterday if you went to the website, WashingtonAdmirals.com, if you just typed in that URL, you would type it in yesterday and it would go to the Washington football team official website. And so they said, hey, we know what it is now. It's the Washington Admirals. Now that broke, you go to WashingtonAdmirals.com and it directs you to a food kitchen called the Giving Kitchen, which is a charity. And it's a charity that the Washington football team supports. So a lot of people, Shannon, this morning are believing that we already know what the new name of the Washington football team is going to be, and it will be the Washington Admirals. However, you could also argue that maybe the team acquired those other names like Washington Commanders and Washington Red Tails in anticipation of whatever the name might become. So while a lot of people are very confident it's the Washington Admirals now, maybe it's not quite 100%. Shannon, what do you think? You feel like it's the Admirals?
First of all, I am amazed by people who are able to dig this out. I did not see this story. I saw plenty of stories of here are the contenders, and much were the names we were discussing throughout the year. The fact that they found this and that it linked back to the site, and now it's going to the Giving Kitchen, the food service for we help food service workers. I like that they've linked it to something else now to make it a positive impact, because right now, what is it really doing if people just go to the Washington website? But I don't know if I'm a huge fan of, and I don't know, maybe I like some of the other names better. I like the idea of the Red Tails Commanders. I thought was pretty good. I don't know, the Cowboys versus the Admirals. I just don't know how I feel about that headline. But I'm it's fine. It's better than Washington football team. I'll say that. I'm okay with that part.
Yeah, I don't like Washington football team. Yeah. Whenever you say Washington football team, it's awkward, it's clunky, and when you say it, Shannon, it reminds you why it's the Washington I mean, if they kept that name and there was some talk, and maybe they still do it, but there was some talk that Daniel Snyder, the owner of Washington, said, we're kind of liking the name. We might just keep it. And I think he was being a little defiant when he said that. But if they kept that, I mean, even like 25, 30 years from now, when you said Washington football team, you would be reminded, oh, yeah, the reason it is the Washington football team is because that other name was deemed offensive, if not racist, for a lot of Native Americans and others who regarded it that way. But Admirals, and even though I love David Robinson, the Admiral, and he is the Admiral for the Spurs, and he went to the Naval Academy and was in the Navy, that's why he's the Admiral. What I don't like about Washington calling itself the Admirals is that's one branch of the military. If you're going to honor the military, you're only honoring the Navy. You're not honoring the Air Force. You're not honoring the Marines and the Army. Whereas, what I didn't like about Commanders was that we had that in the Alliance of American Football. It was the San Antonio Commanders. And Shannon, you know me, I'm a homer, so I would bang that. I don't want to taint the name Commanders by having that Washington football team take it. But to me, if you want to honor the military, Commanders would have been a better name than Admirals, because you're really only honoring the Navy here in one branch of the military. I'm all for honoring the military, but if you're gonna go down that path, let's honor the entire military, would be my position.
So remember when Cleveland changed their name from Indians to Guardians, and then there was this Cleveland roller derby team that was like, wait, we're the Cleveland Guardians. We've been here a minute. They end up working all that out so that MLB can have the Cleveland Guardians, and roller derby team will stay the Cleveland Guardians. Well, there's already a Washington Admirals team, Chris. So I'm wondering if we may get the same story to come if, in fact, Washington football team does change their name to Admirals. The Major League Quidditch team in Washington, which is a real thing. And there are tons of teams. I mean, Austin has their own teams in the Austin Outlaws. And so does San Antonio. San Antonio, if you didn't know, the San Antonio Soldados. There's Major League Quidditch in this land. Washington has a team, and they are the Washington Admirals, established in 2015. So they may have a case on their hands if they bring this up, and Washington does in fact announce a name change to Washington Admirals on Groundhog Day, February 2nd of 2022.
Now, for the uninitiated, do you care to describe what Quidditch is for those who might say, what the heck?
Are you one of those people?
Well, I just Googled it. I had heard the term. When you said it, I Googled it, and now I'm looking at it. I will tell, before I Googled it, I couldn't have given you a background on Quidditch, to be honest.
Quidditch, made popular by the Harry Potter franchise, is like the sport they would play, and that, because they were wizards, would fly around on broomsticks. They have versions that still involve broomsticks, but on fields of grass, and very, very usually fast people play this game. I think I think a lot of schools, I think Texas is one of them, that has actual intramural Quidditch teams. I did not realize there was a professional major league Quidditch in America until Googling Washington Admirals and this team popping up.
Yeah, I'm seeing UCLA plays. They've got a team, Creighton University. My God. And you know now that Quidditch, however you pronounce it, is going to now become an Olympic sport. It's like you create any sport, it'll eventually become an Olympic sport.
I'd like that better than the breakdancing we're going to get in Paris in 2024.
Oh, God, yes. The equipment you need a quaffle, which is a volleyball. You need bludgers, which are dodgeballs. You need a snitch, which is a tennis ball. You need brooms, Harry Potter, and you need hoops to play Quidditch. It was first played in 2005 in Middlebury, Vermont, and the highest governing body is the International Quidditch Association, for those of you playing at home. Now, back to this Washington football team for a second, Shannon. As you know, disappointed as I am in the franchise, if indeed it's Admirals and the word is already out, to give them maybe a little bit of credit if they're really smart, if they're sly and crazy like a fox, if it's another name and then they did this rogue, false story and linked WashingtonAdmirals.com to their site for a day, and then they leaked the story that, oh, look, some people found out it's Admirals. If they did that and did a switcheroo to fool people, then I'd be very impressed. But you look at the way that franchise is run and has been run under Daniel Snyder, I don't think they did that. I don't think that's the case.
Is Dan Snyder and the emails that he's continuing to try and hide and communications he's trying to hide, is he that smart? I don't think he is.
I don't think so either. Now, Wes Perkins, our good friend who calls the show now and then, says that the team should be the Washington Groundhogs because they're making the announcement on February 2nd. That would actually be cool. If you came up with a kitschy name with a fun mascot and it was the Washington Groundhogs, it's like I've always loved the Austin Ice Bats. I thought was a tremendous name with a great logo, with an imaginative mascot, the Ice Bats. Here in and again, another hockey one here in San Antonio, you had the San Antonio Iguanas. And it was just it's like, how is an iguana ever a hockey mascot? But they had a cool logo. It was like neon colored with an iguana on top of a puck. It was like cool. So, I mean, if they went Washington Groundhogs, and nobody really thinks they will, but it is kind of funny that they're going to make the announcement on February 2nd. But if they went Washington Groundhogs, I would respect that. If I didn't hate the franchise because I'm a Cowboys fan, I would even celebrate that. I would celebrate that name. So
I would think anybody in Pennsylvania would feel a little taken aback by it. Isn't that where they do the official Groundhog Day celebration?
Punxsutawney, yes. Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, and Punxsutawney Phil. Yeah, someday if Puxatawny, and maybe Puxatawny can get a Quidditch franchise, the Puxatawny Groundhogs or Phils or the Phillies, I don't know, something like that. So, all right, well, we shall see. No matter what they name that Washington football team, I will never like them because they are the sworn enemy of America's team, the Dallas Cowboys. Coming up, it is time once again for Shannon's Salty Shakedown. We will bring you this day in sports history, sports birthdays, and more. Lots of big stories we are going to cover this morning as well. We talked about the Troy Aikman beer. Might there be a different football team in the future of head coach Jim Harbaugh? We'll get into that. We've got news involving T.O., Klay Thompson, Jalen Hurts, the opponent of the Dallas Cowboys at quarterback, coming up this Saturday night. Lots and lots to talk about. And don't forget Bill Schöning, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, going to join us in here just after 8 o'clock. Jeremy Kolok, the Iron Man of audio, is making the show go. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. Thanks for hanging out with us till 9 o'clock on the Chris Duel Show. Woo! Woo, woo, woo. Purple and orange for our iguanas. I used to love the iguanas colors, logo, name. They were tremendous. All right. Jorge Villarreal, welcome in. Jorge says Cowboys need Dak to get better. Jerry Jones paid too much. I think you can make that argument. You know, I've been saying this lately, and I said it a lot before. I think he's a top 10-ish quarterback, but not a top 5. So when he wanted Mahomes money, I think that was a big ask, and Jerry gave it to him.
struggle with occasional nerve aches in your hands or feet? Try Nervive Nerve Relief. Nervive contains B-complex vitamins and alpha-lipoic acid to relieve nerve aches, weakness, and discomfort. Learn more at nervivehealth.com.
Here we go.
Back to the Chris Duel Show with Shannon,
Welcome back. Chris Duel Show. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney, Jeremy Kolok, We are test driving the Iron Man of audio. We'll see if that sticks as a nickname. He is your soundscape stylist. He is making the show go. He is the man who never sleeps. He works this show. He works the sports grind. He works the Mike Taylor show. He works UTSA basketball. Now they're going to make him work Spurs games. They're going to make him work the WOAI morning news. He is going to just move into the palatial and high-tech iHeartRadio studios, 281 and Stone Oak Parkway. It's a beautiful thing. How far away from the radio station do you live? How long of a drive is it to get here when you drive here?
See, that really depends on the time of day that I'm driving up here. So if it was like during the day, you know, when the sun's out and whatnot, about 20 minutes.
Okay.
But when we come in the morning, I mean, I can get here in 10 minutes. I think that one day I woke up late that I texted you, I got in here in like 6 minutes. So, and you know, I'm not a big speeder either.
No.
So I was efficient with it that day. I had to be.
It is the one perk about working, you know, at the god awful hour in the morning when we get into these buildings is lack of traffic. Now, the only downside of that, though, is when you're driving into work at 4:30 or 5 in the morning, notoriously, that is when drunk driving wrong way drivers go the wrong way on a freeway. So I always keep reminding myself, it's like, isn't this nice? No traffic. I'll just play some music. And, you know, it's like, watch some idiot maybe flying at you in the wrong direction, because it does happen. And it tends to happen at that hour for whatever the reason. All right. Coming up, Shannon's Salty Shakedown. Want to remind you, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schöning, going to join us at 8:05. And Shannon, something else we need to talk about with Bill Schöning. And we like him, and we still like him in the way I still like you, even though you're a Dallas Mavericks fan. Bill Schöning is a card-carrying Philadelphia Eagles fan.
Yes.
So his Eagles play our Cowboys, and his Eagles are going to the playoffs one way or another.
Uh-oh.
I know.
You think it's, I mean, are we sure the Cowboys are going to, like, try in this one?
I've heard them saying, and again, what are they going to say publicly? No, we're not going to try. I've heard them saying we want to tune up for the playoffs, and we want to, you know, so they say they're going to try, but I don't know. There you go. There's your answer.
Resting guys, yeah.
Well, and I almost want them to rest guys. I sure don't want anybody to get hurt. And if somebody does, my God, are we going to be angry at Mike McCarthy? So anyway, so not only will we talk Spurs with Bill Schöning, we'll talk football. And in his defense, he's from Philadelphia. That's where he grew up. So it's okay. Yeah, I'm willing to let it slide if that's where you're from and you're not a Cowboys fan. And he's not, it's not that he's not a Cowboys fan. He's, you know, he's okay with the Cowboys. He just grew up in Philly. So he's an Eagles fan and a Sixers fan and probably a Phillies fan or a flan and a Flyers flan. Thank you. We will be serving flan after the show. Just letting you know. All right. In a moment, God help us, it is Shannon's Salty Shakedown. But first, let's get this party started with some sports birthdays and this day in sports history. This day in 1957, the Brooklyn Dodgers were going to trade Jackie Robinson to the New York Giants. A, how stupid of them. B, Jackie Robinson said, I don't think so. I retire. And he got a great job as with a major corporation. I'm forgetting what it was. I'd have to Google it. Something like Westinghouse, or he got a cool gig with a major corporation. So good for Jackie Robinson. On this day in 1971, this one blows my mind, and I got to learn more about it. On this day in 1971, the Harlem Globetrotters lost. They lost a game to the New Jersey Reds, 100-99. It ended the Harlem Globetrotters' 2,495 game win streak. I don't even remember or know of the Harlem Globetrotters losing a game, but they did on this day in 1971. I'm going to research that. I'm going to learn more.
Yeah.
That totally shocks me. Shannon, can you believe?
I blame the refs. I wasn't there, but I blame the
Yes.
refs. Poor
I'm
officiating.
sure the refs, yes, I'm sure they had something to do with it. On this day in 1993, Reggie Jackson, Mr. October, was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame, which is appropriate because he was pretty amazing. On this day in 2007, Bill Cowher resigned as head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. You got to wonder what was behind that, because things were going relatively well. Of course, we talked about Mike Tomlin yesterday. Things have gone pretty well under Mike Tomlin also. Finally, on this day in 2019, just 2 years ago tonight, the Golden State Warriors and the Sacramento Kings combined for 41 three-point shots in the Warriors' 127-123 win. It set a new NBA record for three-point shots in a game. Steph Curry, of course, hit 10 of them, while Buddy Hield of the Kings had 8. Justin Jackson of the Kings added 5. Oh, I got one more for you. On this day in 2021, a year ago, Devontae Smith, Alabama wide receiver, won the 86th Heisman Trophy. I guess it was delayed because of all the COVID. It's weird to have that Heisman Trophy announcement on January 5th, but it was a year ago. That is your sports history. How about some sports birthdays? Speaking of the Pittsburgh Steelers and head coaches, their head coach, who won all those Super Bowls in the 70s, Chuck Noll, was born on this day in Cleveland, Ohio. That's a little ironic because the Steelers under him and ever since have kind of dominated the Cleveland Browns. Chuck Noll passed away in 2014. Born on this day in 1938, Hall of Fame Oakland Raiders center Jim Otto was born in Wausau, Wisconsin. Jim Otto famously wore number 00, which is perfect because his name is Otto. He had an O on the end of each side of his last name, Otto, which is kind of cool. Born on this day in 1945, former NFL head coach Sam Weish, who coached the Cincinnati Bengals, led them to a couple of Super Bowl losses. He would later coach the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He introduced that West Coast was credited to Bill Walsh no-huddle offense. Sam Weish was born in Atlanta, Georgia. He passed away in 2020. And finally, born on this day in 1947, Eugene Mercury Morris, running back, Miami Dolphins, was on that Miami Dolphin 17-0 team in 1970, 72, 73. Eugene Mercury Morris was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Happy birthday, Mercury Morris. Those are your sports birthdays. That's your sports history. And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, Romans, countrymen, pole assassins, monkeys, and iron men of audio, here it is, your salty shakedown.
All right, Chris. We're gonna start. We're gonna San Antonio area this morning. Earlier in, or I guess New Year. Sorry, 2022. So last year, 2021, we had a fantastic documentary come out on Netflix that was all about Tony Parker and what his career path was like, how his career went, and then what he's up to now. And in it, his San Antonio area home, just outside of San Antonio, was featured, and I was amazed. It's beautiful. It's gigantic. I think it's like 53 acres, and he's got what is essentially a water park in his backyard, a multi-level pool with different types of slides and different pool areas and a grotto. I mean, the whole thing. Just invite me over for a weekend, and it would feel like a resort getaway, in my opinion. Well, that house, Chris, is now for sale for just the cheap price of $19.5 million. The house
Wow.
also includes, on top of the water park, a greenhouse, a fruit orchard, a wine cellar that can hold 1,500 bottles of wine, and a fitness center that is like triple the size of most people's homes at 6,000 square feet. So not a small abode. You can see why it might be worth that high price tag. Chris, I don't know if there's a way that you and I can get in there, maybe tour it. Maybe we say you're an international businessman who's looking for
Yeah.
a part-time residence, and that we'd love to tour the home. But my question to you, because one of the rooms featured in his documentary was this special, almost oversized closet memorabilia room where he had his championship rings on display. He had his jerseys. I think he actually had to use his thumb to get into the room to unlock it because it had such great memorabilia inside, stuff that he would consider priceless. If you were to purchase this home, you now have a room like this set up for maximum security to display your prized possessions. What are you putting in there, Chris?
Wow. I guess my prized possession sports memorabilia won a Tom Landry autographed football, which I have, which was autographed to me. He says to Chris D, because my father-in-law got it from Tom Landry on an Austin golf course, of all places. So that, and I have a commemorative Dallas Cowboys Super Bowl VI unopened Pepsi bottle from 1972 when they won their first Super Bowl. I bought it at an HEB, Babcock and Wurzbach Road. Actually, those are my, I mean, granted, my sports memorabilia, not as prolific as Tony Parker's, but that's what I would put in there.
I mean, it's like your own little museum. I don't have any sports memorabilia, so I'd probably just go with everything NSYNC and Justin Timberlake that I've collected throughout the years, which is a lot. It's a lot. I do have a little shrine in my room of just concert posters and things of that nature. So that would be what I would go with in there. Again, if you want it, it's yours for $19.5 million. Tony Parker's San Antonio area mansion. All right, story number 2 today, Chris. It's quite a crazy one. The feds have seized fake Buck championship rings, multiple championship rings that were made and then shipped to Cincinnati, apparently, where customs found these rings. I didn't realize this was such a huge deal. We talk about memorabilia all the time, and obviously how much money items tend to go for. But when fakes are involved, then you have people who are just like you and me, who just want some memorabilia, who want to remember a moment of their favorite sports team. And so they put down a good amount of change to collect these items, and it's hard to prove whether they're real or not. And with this shipment, including a total of 56 shipments thus far in the past couple months, 1,382 fake sports championship rings, as well as trophies, some even including fake Lombardi trophies, have been collected. They're estimating that all of those items combined would go for $1 million. So they're basically saving Americans $1 million just with what they've collected in the last few months. The last year that the world was somewhat normal, 2019, when there was a little bit more, togetherness and probably a little bit more packages going around and auctions to be had. They estimate that authorities seized nearly $12 million worth of fake title goods. Chris, I didn't realize this was such an issue, but apparently it is, because that's a lot of cash that could have been spent unknowingly by people thinking they were getting the real deal.
And see, I always wonder about this in the memorabilia. And again, I've just got a couple of items, as I mentioned to you, but like autographs can so easily be faked. And I know there are certificates of authenticity, but you can fake those. And now NBA rings and Vince Lombardi trophies. I mean, let the buyer beware. And you see these huge prices for jerseys and for basketball shoes. And you just wonder, clearly, if there's money to be made and big money to be made, there are going to be forgeries out there and people trying to take advantage. And this is apparently one. But why Cincinnati? Is that a hotbed for Milwaukee Bucks championship rings? That's crazy.
Yeah, wherever they're being made, just ship them to Ohio, I guess. Maybe their customs is known for letting some things slide, just not this go round. But crazy stories. So just anyone who is interested in memorabilia, just be careful. I personally like, unless I'm the one getting the autograph or getting the whatever from the source itself.
Yeah.
It's not my thing too, because I want that memory. That's part of it, I think. For me,
Yes.
with memorabilia is to have the memory of being involved in whatever it is that you're wanting that item for. All right, finally today, some great memorabilia for a Jets player who intercepted Tom Brady over the weekend. Brandon Eccles. You probably saw the story that after the Jets Bucks game, in which the Bucks did come back to beat the Jets, he went over to Tom Brady with that ball that he intercepted off of the great quarterback and had him autograph it. Tom Brady actually did it. But now Tom Brady, he's got this podcast that he does for Sirius XM. He talked about that moment. And this part isn't in the audio, but we'll play it for you now, and then I'll tell you how he finished what he said.
All right, Tom, another favorite subject of yours is interceptions. Well, you threw one yesterday to Brandon Eccles. He was quite proud of that. There at the end of the half, they went down and got a field goal, and after the game, he ran across the field with the ball and a pen, and he graciously signed it. Is that the first time that's ever happened?
Yeah, that was the first time. That was what a nice guy, young player. It was actually it was kind of flattering. It's not often I've signed an interception ball too. I think that's the first time. So
he went on to say, I don't necessarily like signing mistakes. Let me just say that that's the last time I'm going to do that. I know it's the season of giving. I don't plan on giving any more gifts to people for that either. It's much better to receive than give from my standpoint as a quarterback. My take here, Chris, is that this is Tom Brady in his final years, right? This is Tom Brady realizing that he is a legend of this league, a living legend who is still playing at a very high level, and that there are very young guys who have idolized him for years and years. Why not make this guy's day that much better by just giving him the autograph? But I have to believe that Tom Brady 10 years ago would have been upset by that request. He would have ignored him. There would have been memes of the facial expressions made, whatever actions. Maybe, Tom Brady's a big fan of tossing around those tablets. Maybe we get a tablet toss just for the thought that he might sign a ball that he threw to the opposing team. But I do like that he did it this go around. But your thoughts on this even taking place? I mean, I don't know that we've ever seen this before.
And it just adds to the whole Tom Brady story. And as you know, Shannon, I like Tom Brady now. I didn't used to. I agree with you. A younger Tom Brady probably doesn't sign this football. But again, no matter if someone asks you for something and they're honored by your presence and you can do something for them, do it. Tom Brady did it. I think it's cool. Way to go, Tom.
Honored by your presence. If I'm Tom Brady, I'm just walking around saying, my presence is your present. There it is. Today is the salty takedown.
My presence is your present. Nice. You came up with two great catchphrases today. Tastes like victory, the Troy Aikman beer catchphrase. And for Tom Brady now, my presence is your present. Boom. Shannon Salty Sweeney, you need a big marketing career. You need to just...
Right. Yeah, just hit me up on Twitter.
Hand out these
taglines and things like that.
Yeah, hit her up at Shannon B. Sweeney. You need any tagline, nickname for Jeremy, whatever you're looking for, she's got it. Coming up, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs and Eagles fan, Bill Schoening. We'll talk Spurs, Cowboys, Eagles, and more with Bill coming up. Thanks for hanging out with us till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Dean, you bring up a great question. And I should have asked Shannon about this. Yeah, if Tony Parker is selling his house, does that mean Tony Parker's leaving? What's happening? Okay, be right back. Oh, yeah, it's always... No.
nerve aches, weakness, or discomfort in your hands and feet? Try Nervive Nerve Relief from the world's #1 selling nerve care company. Nervive contains alpha-lipoic acid to relieve nerve aches, weakness, and discomfort, and B-complex vitamins to support healthy nerve function as you age. Live your life with less nerve discomfort with Nervive Nerve Relief. Learn more at nervivehealth.com.
You probably leave thousands of dollars on the table every time. Why leave thousands on the table for your tax return? Jackson Hewitt will help ensure you don't. This year, there are thousands of dollars worth of new tax credits. Your Jackson Hewitt tax pro will help you track down every last one, so you get the biggest refund guaranteed. Don't leave thousands on the table this year. Discover thousands of dollars in tax credits instead. Learn more at jacksonhewitt.com.
All right. Bill Schoening coming up. Find my Bill Schoening photo. Where's Bill Schoening? There he is. Yeah, I've occasionally we've brought this up. I think it's a great topic, James. I love hearing what people's favorite memorabilia is. James Rippey says, my prized piece of sports memorabilia is a red Chicago Bulls MJ jersey along with some MJ cards and a commemorative Bulls basketball after they won their 5th championship. Very nice. Jorge says, can you imagine Russell Wilson with this Cowboys offense? Yeah, I wonder, though, how old is Russell Wilson now? Are we getting to the point when maybe his skills are diminishing? To get him, you got to pay so much money. He's 33 years old. Okay. I think you could argue until probably 37-ish, he'll be fine. But of course, now we've got Tom Brady at 44. So let me see if my notes from the Spurs game are around here. Jesse Bratton with the solution. This will solve the Cowboys' offensive problems. Protect Dak better and open holes for Zeke. If they would just do that. Jorge's memorabilia. I have a small helmet signed by Drew Pearson, who was at Fry's Electronics in Arlington. Very cool. Jason, that's a good question. I'll try to ask him that. Does Bill Schoening have the same feed as we see, or does he have access to different camera angles for his replays? It's a great question. We'll ask him. I have a feeling he gets the same feed we get, but I don't know that for a fact. It's a very good question, though. James Rippey says, oh, I forgot to mention I have some Cal Ripken Jr. commemorative baseballs with his picture, jersey number, and stats on them. Very cool. I have it's funny, Shannon mentioned the fake Milwaukee Bucks championship rings in the Salty Shakedown at the Elf Louise Radiothon a few years ago. They had it was a silent auction, so the proceeds went to Elf Louise. They had a Houston Astros championship ring, and obviously I didn't think it was real, and I don't. It's a facsimile, but it looks nice. So it's a huge Houston Astros 2017 World Series championship ring, and on the side it says Altuve. It's Jose Altuve on the side, and I'm an Altuve fan. So I thought, well, I'll bid $100 on this ring because I'm an Astros fan, and if nothing else, it'll be a nice paperweight and a cool little thing to have. So I want it. So I'll bring that in sometime and show it. It is a Jose Altuve Houston Astros championship ring. And no, it's not real or authentic, but it's it looks like the real thing, which is cool. So it was a win-win. I'm an Astros fan. I won the auction, and $100 went to the Elf Louise Christmas project. So it's all good. So that's on my memorabilia list. What I usually have in here, and I'm going to try to get it framed. I've had it in here before. I have a Tom Landry poster from the early 1980s. And it was, I think actually it was for muscular dystrophy. He's pointing and he says, I want you, and he wants you to support the charity. Bill Schoening, I believe, is there. Thank you, Jeremy. Gold Peak Tea. See, some morning I'll be drinking the Troy Aikman beer now that it's out. Here we go.
This is the Chris Duel Show.
You know the day destroys the night. Night divides the day. Try to run.
Now, Chris Duel.
It is Wednesday. It is the first Wednesday of 2022. You have made it to the midpoint of the week. It's all downhill from here, but lots and lots going on in the world of sports. Welcome in. It is the Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, Jeremy Kolok making the show go. And every Wednesday morning at this time, we always look forward to it because he is kind enough to join us every Wednesday just after 8 o'clock, and especially the night after a Spurs game and on a Spurs game night, which it is. It's a back-to-back for the Spurs. They were in Toronto last night where they lost to the Raptors 129-104. Spurs back in action tonight in Boston at TD Garden pregame at 6, tip-off just after 6:30, and the man who will have the call out of 1200 WOAI in San Antonio and across the Spurs radio network is the radio voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Mr. Bill Schöning. Bill, how are you doing this morning?
Very good, Chris. Good to be with you once again.
And Bill, we got so much to talk about. Not only will we talk Spurs, but as I mentioned to Shannon earlier in the show, you grew up in Philadelphia. You are a Philadelphia Eagles fan. It's Cowboys-Eagles on Saturday night. And, of course, your Eagles, like the Cowboys, headed to the playoffs. So we want to talk some Eagles and Cowboys with you coming up in a little bit. But let's start with the San Antonio Spurs. Kind of a tough patch for the Spurs right now. They've lost 4 in a row. And last night, as you know well, because you had the call, Bill, Fred VanVleet goes nuts, especially in the first half. He had 24 points. The Raptors hit 9 more three-point shots than the Spurs. It just, from very early, it looked like it was going to be the Raptors' night last night.
Yeah, they just never really got the rhythm last night with Spurs, and turnovers were a real big issue. They just never really looked like they got in a groove offensively. They tried to, I think, over-penetrate sometimes, and the ball knocked away, some bad passes, trying to force things a little bit. They got out of their rhythm, as I mentioned. They had 20 turnovers last night, and this is a team that usually takes pretty good care of the basketball, but 26 points off those turnovers by the Raptors, that really kind of set the tone for the game. And then offensive rebounds continue to be a problem with the opposing team getting the offensive board. 16 offensive rebounds last night, 26 second chance points. So the Raptors last night had 26 points off turnovers and 26 second chance points. You really want to try to limit those, especially when you're on the road. And if you do those things, then you've got to shoot the ball extremely well. And the Spurs didn't do that, just 9 for 35 from three-point range. So just a tough night all the way around. It's clear that they really missed DeJounte Murray. 1-4 without him, but the rainbow right now might be, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow may be the fact that DeJounte is expected to return this evening. You know, knock on wood, fingers crossed, and all that kind of stuff. But DeJounte, of course, has been out with health and safety protocol last couple of games, conditioning, getting back in, and he was scheduled to meet the team in Boston. So hopefully we'll see DeJounte Murray back on the floor, because the Spurs certainly do need him. They're 1-4 without him.
Bill, Chris and I talked about this a little bit earlier in the show, that last night's game in Toronto was a bit of a homecoming for Josh Primo. Did you see anything special or different about him? Was he more energized than usual in his performance in his homecoming? I mean, did it feel special, even though there's only 1,000 people in the stands?
Yeah, I don't even know if there was 1,000 people in the stands, to be honest with you. There was not much of an atmosphere last night. We were, of course, remotely broadcasting the game, Shannon, but Josh does what he always does. He comes in and he provides some energy, and nothing seems to really faze this guy. You know, he just turned 19 years of age, but he got his career high last night. He was 4 of 10 from the field. He had 5 free throws, 5 out of 6 from the free throw line. So it was the first free throws he shot all year as a member of the San Antonio Spurs. Of course, he's been spending quite a bit of time in Austin, but he had 15 points and 5 boards, 4 assists, and he looked comfortable out there, and he played almost 28 minutes. So I think that is certainly something that we can look forward to in the future, perhaps seeing a little bit more of him, maybe not a full scale basis. One of the interesting things that Pop said last night before the game, because one of the local reporters there in Toronto asked him about Josh Primo, and he said, you know, when I had Tony Parker, he was also 19, and of course Josh just turned 19 on Christmas Eve, but he said the difference was that Tony had played over in Europe and played against grown men for a couple of years. Tony turned pro when he was 17 in the French League, and of course Josh didn't have that. He played 1 year at the University of Alabama. So I think the Pop feels like he needs that maturity in the G League to get those minutes. But at the same time, when opportunities like this, when the Spurs are shorthanded, it's good to throw him out there and see what he does. And I think he did some good things last night.
You know, Bill, you bring up Tony Parker, and I did not know this. Shannon brought it up on the show a few minutes ago in her Salty Shakedown. Tony Parker's home in San Antonio is up for sale. Apparently an asking price of $19.5 million. I will play lotto. If I can win lotto, Bill, I might take a shot at that. What do you think?
You know, that house is so big, I think we could all do it together and still pretty comfortably out there. We have plenty of room, no problem at all. There's a guest house that's probably bigger than our regular home. And it's only $19 million, right, Chris?
Yeah.
Why not? Yeah, what kind of a mortgage can you get on that deal? We'll see.
Yeah, maybe we can bargain him down, maybe take it down to 18. Maybe he'd give you a good deal, Bill, because he knows you, maybe, I don't know. It could happen. Back to Josh Primo for a second. As you mentioned, Bill, he has spent a lot of time with the Austin Spurs, but we've also seen him quite a bit with the San Antonio Spurs. As you've mentioned, he's kind of become a fan favorite. The fans love him. Why do you think it appears that he's spending more time in San Antonio with the big squad, whereas Pop, for so many years, if you're a rookie especially, you are going to spend a lot of time in Austin, and you're probably not going to spend a lot of time with the San Antonio Spurs until the next year. Do you think Pop maybe sees a little something extra in Josh Primo to be giving him these opportunities?
Well, of course, the G League had to shut down for a little bit, Chris. So that's one of the reasons why Josh, I think, is with the parent club right now, because the Austin Spurs aren't playing games right now. The other thing is the Spurs have had some issues, obviously, with Doug McDermott, Lonnie Walker, and DeJounte Murray having been out. Devontae Kaycock also out. But again, DeJounte expected to come back this evening. So therefore, without Lonnie's boost off the bench, a guy like Josh Primo gets a chance to play some extra minutes. And I thought he acquitted himself pretty well last night. So, and listening to Pop and trying to figure out exactly what the plan is for the future, I think that they're still going to use him some with the San Antonio Spurs. But, of course, they've got that option when the Austin Spurs start back up. The fact that, Austin's only right up the road, a little bit over an hour to Cedar Park, I think that they're going to use that as well to get him some extra minutes when they can. But as long as they're shorthanded with the parent club, with Lonnie being out, I think that he'll get some of those minutes.
Bill, the Spurs take on the Celtics tonight. You mentioned earlier. Spurs maybe getting some reinforcements back in the lineup to help them try and string some wins together. The Celtics also hoping that Jason Tatum will make his return tonight. Do you happen to know the status of him, and what about him being in the lineup versus out of the lineup when the Spurs have to play against this Boston team? What about him makes him a threat that the Spurs will need to lock down?
Well, he dropped 60 on the Spurs last year, so there you go. He can score. There's no question about that. He was the leading scorer when the Spurs played the Boston Celtics earlier this year. The Spurs played very well, by the way, in that ballgame. Tatum practiced yesterday. He is expected to come back tonight. He's been out with health and safety protocol. The Celtics went 2-2 without him. But the guy that really stepped up while he was out is Jaylen Brown. He scored 50 the other night against the Orlando Magic. So they've got a real double threat there. They're the fourth best scoring combination in the league. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum when they're on the floor together, and Tatum is expected back. Of course, the other interesting note about this entire matchup is the fact that this will be the second time Ime Udoka has faced the Spurs. Ime Udoka, a longtime assistant coach for the Spurs. He had 2 stints as a player with the Spurs as well. He spent 7 years as an assistant between 2012 and 2019 with San Antonio, went to Philly for a year, and now the head coach of Boston. He was an assistant with the 76ers. But I think that, that's an interesting matchup, too, because Ime and Pop, of course, get along so well. And just another guy on this coaching tree. And we've already seen one on the strip, Taylor Jenkins, who spent a lot of time in Austin with the Austin Toros before they were known as the Austin Spurs. So you've got all these different connections throughout the league. And I think that, Ime is going to do a good job there. Right now, they're struggling a little bit. They're a game under 500 at 18-19. They're in 10th place in the East, but now they'll have close to full strength. They're not going to be full strength back, but they do have Jason Tatum back, which is a big, big piece for them.
He's the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening. Bill, you mentioned Ime Udoka, the Celtics head coach, a part of that Greg Popovich coaching tree. Last night on postgame, you spoke with another Spurs assistant coach who is now going to go branch out, and we can certainly call her a member of the Greg Popovich coaching tree. Becky Hammon, of course, she made a lot of big headlines over the weekend as it was made official that she will become head coach of the Las Vegas Aces. The rest of this Spurs season, she's going to be doing double duty, working with both franchises. But your thoughts, I was thinking about her making this leap, and we heard from her yesterday as well, saying, there's something about being a head coach, and they made her this offer, and they gave her this great opportunity. And as you mentioned on the pregame to me as well, Bill, Mark Davis, the guy who owns the Las Vegas Raiders, owns the Las Vegas Aces. And I think about when Boban Marjanovic was a rookie with the Spurs, and Detroit offered him all this money, and he really loved San Antonio, and he loved Pop, and he loved being here. And Pop said, hey, go get your money. Go where the money is. I wonder if maybe part of the dynamic here, they made such a great offer to Becky Hammon. How does she not go and get this money and become a head coach in the WNBA?
One of the things she also talked about, Chris, in that introductory press conference the other day, which was on Zoom from Toronto, is she said that one of the things that she got while she was doing these interviews with other teams, one of the feedback items that she got back from the teams was that, well, you don't have any head coaching experience. Well, how do you get the head coaching experience, right? So now she's going to go get some head coaching experience. They also wanted her to work in the front office. And I think this is just a big, big opportunity for her and a chance for her to run the franchise and do things the right way. What did Bill Parcells once say? He wants to, if he's going to cook the meal, he wants to go shopping and get the ingredients.
Yeah.
And that's going to be kind of the deal with Becky with the Las Vegas Aces. But they've got a lot of other good professional people in that organization. She mentioned Jennifer Azzi is going to be part of that staff. So I think that this was an opportunity for her to get back to the WNBA, where she is well known and respected. And of course, kind of the legendary player. Her number hangs in the rafters there in Vegas, where the Las Vegas Aces play, because of course that was once the Silver Stars in San Antonio, and that's where Becky had many, many good years, along with her years with the New York Liberty. But I think that it's a comfort zone for her, and obviously they really wanted her. They made her a really good offer, and she said she spent some sleepless nights trying to figure out exactly what she was going to do. But then at the end of the day, she figured out this would be a really good opportunity for her, and we're happy for her. But, it's interesting hearing the players talking about this. They're all happy that she's staying to the end of the year. If she had left now, it might be a little tough. But I think that these players that rely on her a lot, rely on her coaching and tutelage, guys like Lonnie Walker saying, I'm really happy that she's here with us for the rest of the season.
Bill, you are a Eagles fan, and the Eagles and Cowboys will close out the season playing each other on a Saturday night. I don't see that there's a Spurs game, so you'll be able to check that one out on Saturday night. How are you seeing this one going?
It's really interesting to see exactly how they're going to play it. I haven't read too much into this game, but, both teams are in. And I would imagine that you'll want to, stay sharp and have your guys out there. But at the same time, the last thing you want is a guy like Jalen Hurts to get hurt before the playoffs, since you're already in. So I'm interested to see how Coach Nick Sirianni plays this with his team kind of set as far as the playoffs are concerned. So I'm sure they want to beat Dallas. That's always a goal for the Philadelphia Eagles and their fans, of course, because the Eagles fans and Cowboys fans generally don't get along very well, and I understand that. But it's just interesting that they're both are in. And at one point, it looked like the Eagles weren't even going to get in, but they're playing very, very well right now. I think Jalen Hurts is really kind of managing the game very well. He obviously can run. He can add that dimension to his game. And the Eagles are a very good running team. So one of the good things about Philadelphia is if they're healthy up front, if their offensive line continues to play the way they are and stay intact and stay healthy, then they can run the ball. And when you can run the ball in the NFL, you can keep the ball away from the opposing quarterback. So going into the playoffs, I'm optimistic that the Eagles, could be able to win a playoff game or two because the way they're running the ball right now.
Yeah, and Bill, they've won 4 in a row, the Eagles have, until the Cowboys lost this past weekend to Arizona. They were on a 4-game losing streak, a 4-game winning streak for the Cowboys that was snapped. And what you want to do, as we've seen all these years watching the NFL, Bill, you want to get hot come playoff time. And the other thing I'm so impressed by, so many people thought the worst division in the NFL was the NFC East, and here they are, 2 teams qualifying for the NFC playoffs, and neither of them the Washington football team, which is the team that represented and won the NFC East a year ago. So, both Dallas and Philadelphia facing each other on Saturday night speaks, I think, pretty well for both franchises.
Yeah, I think so, too. The Eagles are a young team, too, and they have improved. And that's credit to the coaching staff because they were kind of dead in the water there for a little while early in the season. But they have picked it up. They haven't played the best competition, but they're getting wins, and that's important. But I really like this young quarterback, Jalen Hurts. They've got some good young defensive players, and they've got 3 draft picks coming up. I think they got 3 first-round draft picks next year. So this is a team that's built for the future. They have a young coach, young players. And I'm not sure how far they're going to go this year, but I do think that they're building a foundation for the future. They try to pivot a little bit. They had Doug Peterson there and Carson Wentz, and now they've turned the page completely, and they're going with these young guys, and they seem to be headed in the right direction.
Bill, as you look at the NFL, certainly in the NFC, it looks like the road to the Super Bowl will go through Lambeau Field. Brady and the Bucs managed to beat the Packers at Lambeau a year ago. I don't know that happens 2 years in a row. And as we go into this final week over in the AFC, you've got, surprisingly, I think, the Tennessee Titans with the hold on the number 1 seed. We'll see if they can hold on to that the final week of the regular season. And if they do, they get the week off, and they might get Derrick Henry back. As we move closer to the NFL playoffs, who do you see as the favorites from each conference to go to the Super Bowl?
Well, I sat down and watched the Kansas City Cincinnati game the other day, and I haven't had a chance to really watch a lot of NFL, but I was really impressed with Cincinnati. They've got that Jamar Chase is amazing, and so is Joe Burrow, the quarterback. They've got a good young team as well. Kansas City didn't do much offensively in the second half, although I still think you have to respect Patrick Mahomes and their fine offense. Kelsey, the tight end, of course, they've got great speed on the outside. But I think that Tennessee, come playoff time, if Derrick Henry is healthy, the way they run the ball, they're going to be a tough out. So I think it's wide open. I really do, on both sides, both the NFC and the AFC. And I know that everything goes through Lambeau and Aaron Rodgers is there, but I can see an upset somewhere along the line. So I really think that it's a wild card type thing. I think that some long shots could really come in here. We'll see what happens. But I really like Cincinnati, believe it or not. I know that's a long shot, and I know that they haven't really had much of a resume as far as contending is concerned. But they seem to be playing pretty good football right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think Cincinnati for the next few years, they're so young. And Joe Burrow, I think, is moving into what will soon be elite quarterback status. So I agree with you. Cincinnati's a team to keep an eye on. Finally, Bill, we got a question from a listener. Jason Paniagua, and I don't know the answer to this, but it's an interesting question. As we know, due to COVID now, when the Spurs are on the road, you do the games remotely, as you did last night. Spurs were on the road in Toronto. Jason asks, does Bill have the same television feed that we see at home, or does he have access to different camera angles and different replays? When you're calling a game remotely off of a television monitor, how different is that for you? And are you looking at the same feed we are at home?
I am looking at the exact same feed. I have no different camera angles. So what you see, I see, basically. Now, I have a few other bells and whistles. I have a stat monitor. I have an engineer that takes care of everything, obviously, Sam Walters. We have our studio producer, Mike Bartlett, who you work with there in the studio. Chris does such a great job. So I've got a lot of support. I've got everything I need. Our director of broadcasting, Mike Gigarillo, has done a great job during all of this to make sure that the television guys, Spanish radio, and myself, we have everything we need as far as being able to call the game and all the information that we have access to from Zoom and all the other things that we do to try to make sure that it sounds like we're there, even though we're not. Now, last night, of course, Toronto had a very, very small crowd. They're really reducing the number of people that can come to sporting events in the province of Ontario. So that's why there was very little crowd noise last night. Man, I felt like I needed a church organ. I felt like I was... and it was just a really strange thing. But we're adjusting and adapting during all of this. We're hoping to get back to traveling at some point, but it's just not safe yet. So this is the way we've got to do it for a while.
Well, I got to tell you, Bill, as a guy who listens to every broadcast, because I got you on the headphones at the Spurs Radio Net Center, and I listened to you for years before I got the opportunity to work with you. I can't tell the difference. Even though it's a different animal, I'm sure, and you had to adapt to it. As a listener, I can't tell the difference. It sounds as outstanding as it did and does when you're there for live game action. So as always, you do a tremendous job. And once again, tonight, Bill will have the call as the Spurs are in Boston at TD Garden. Tip-off just after 6:30 on the Spurs Radio Network. And, of course, pregame, Spurs Radio Game Night with Bill, 6 o'clock tonight, 1200 WOAI out of San Antonio and across the Spurs Radio Network. Bill, as always, on the morning after and on a back-to-back and on a game day, thanks so much for taking the time. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for the kind words. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs. And Shannon, gives me a little hope that he sees the NFC and AFC as wide open as a Cowboys fan. That gives me a little hope. I must admit being a little daunted by Aaron Rodgers and those Packers getting home field throughout the playoffs.
A little hope is all you need.
A little hope is all you need.
That's all we
There
need.
you go.
Chris.
That's all we need, Chris.
I'm okay with that.
And that's what we got at the moment. All right, coming up, we will walk through all the stories we haven't gotten to yet. Klay Thompson, will he return to the Golden State Warriors? We'll talk about that. What about Jim Harbaugh? What might be next for him? Stick around at Michigan, even though you took a pay cut, or do you want to go back to the NFL? We'll talk TO and more. Lots of stories to cover in the final half hour. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. Jeremy Kolok making the show go with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Woo! What's happening?
First of all, Happy New Year, sir.
Thank you.
Like I walked into the doctor's office, and the doctor asked, "What's your problem?" I said, "I think I'm a moth." He said, "A moth? Well, you don't need to see me. You need to see a psychiatrist." He says, "Well, I was going to look for a psychiatrist, but I saw your light on, so I came in."
Very good. Thank you very much. Thank you, Louisa. Sam Tobias has some replica rings. Very cool. Here we come.
Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Join in by dialing 1-800-707-9760.
The Eagles. Did you play that in honor of the Philadelphia Eagles? Are you tying the band, the Eagles, into our discussion with Bill Schoening about the Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles? Mr. Jeremy Kolok, is that what's going on?
I might have. Even I also might have played a song by the band Boston to go into the break.
Wow. See?
Just maybe.
If you're paying attention, Jeremy Kolok's got all this double meaning going on with all the bumper music. It is pretty darn amazing. Thank you, sir. Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Shannon, lots of stories still to get to before 9 o'clock. And I think a very intriguing story in the National Football League. Reportedly, the Chicago Bears are interested in Jim Harbaugh. As you will remember, he used to play quarterback for the Chicago Bears back in the Mike Ditka era. And also, the University of Michigan made Jim Harbaugh take a pay cut to keep his job this past season. As we all know, they were not happy with him. He couldn't beat Ohio State. He wasn't winning the games they wanted him to win, and then he goes and he beats Ohio State and he wins the conference. He goes to the college football playoff. Granted, it was pretty ugly in the college football playoff against Georgia, but there are those who know Jim Harbaugh who said, he never really wanted to leave the NFL. And when the San Francisco 49ers blew him out, before he had another gig secure, Michigan came calling and they said, if you want this job, you need to take it now. We need to, because of recruiting and everything that happens and hiring a new college football head coach, and it was his alma mater. So at the time, it seemed like the thing to do. So Shannon, you combine Jim Harbaugh's reported or apparent affinity toward being an NFL head coach, along with the fact that he was kind of, until this season, dissed and not very beloved by a lot of the Michigan fans. I would bet money, if I had to take a bet, will he stay or will he go? I got a feeling Jim Harbaugh makes the leap back to the NFL and probably the Chicago Bears over the offseason.
I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it happened, just given his history with the NFL and I think his desire to be there if given the option. But after this season, where Michigan finally got over the hump that was Ohio State and they won their conference championship and they made it to the Final Four for the college football playoff, I don't know why you would now walk away, right? Like everyone told you weren't the right guy. You weren't the right guy. They give you that last chance. Yes, you took a pay cut for it, but look what you accomplished. What could that future hold for you? Especially when now looking at Michigan State, right, who has their man, right? They signed him to another 10 years, giant contract. Just the state of Michigan feels really good about their college football programs right now. I don't know where that would leave Michigan if Jim Harbaugh were to walk away. And the Bears, given that seems to be a likely landing spot should he make the return to the NFL, that organization and that team, I don't know where they are and I don't know where they're going. That feels risky to me. NFL, not for long. He's not going to get the leash he was given at Michigan. So I feel like positioning wise, he's better off to stay at Michigan and see if he can get back to that Final Four and see if he can win another conference championship. Because as we know, NFL jobs open up at the end of every season. So I don't think by passing on this Bears gig, should that be the one he's offered, he's not going to get another shot at jumping back in. but now he just seems like he's in a groove at Michigan, and I don't know why he'd be giving that up for the Bears.
And you have to wonder as well, and you make a great point, and there is a big argument, as successful as he was at Michigan this past year, is to build on the success that he has finally achieved and that he was building toward ever since he became the Michigan head coach. But I also wonder, and while there's talk that the Bears would be the likely landing spot for Jim Harbaugh, we talked earlier about the Jacksonville Jaguars clown out that they're going to do. The fans are going to wear clown costumes with large handlebar mustaches to mock their owner, Shad Khan. But you look at that Jacksonville Jaguars position, and they're looking for another head coach. And you've got to wonder, Jim Harbaugh, a former NFL quarterback and obviously a college quarterback, a guy who was the coach for Andrew Luck when he was at Stanford, a guy who was successful for a while coaching Colin Kaepernick to a Super Bowl with the San Francisco 49ers. If you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think, among other things, you want a coach who has what I'm getting at is, if you're the Jaguars, from their perspective, Harbaugh has led a team to the Super Bowl and nearly won it. His brother beat him when it was Baltimore Ravens versus 49ers in that Super Bowl. He's been successful wherever he's gone to an extent. He was very successful at Stanford. He was just very successful at Michigan. He got the 49ers to the Super Bowl. And it is, if you're a coach in the NFL, you want to tie yourself to a quarterback that has a huge upside. Trevor Lawrence, sunshine at Jacksonville. To me, that's an intriguing possibility as well.
Yeah. And just to play devil's advocate, I know he's obviously made the jump from college to the NFL before, right? He was at Stanford before he went to the 49ers. So it's not exactly like Urban Meyer in that he does have that experience, and he did coach in the NFL previously. But I wonder if there's kind of that taste in the ownership's mouth of maybe bringing a guy directly from college to the NFL isn't the best move. And again, on Harbaugh's side,
that's a consideration. Yeah,
there are no guarantees when it comes to Jacksonville, because they have a plenty of issues. But yeah, given if you were to say, do you want Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields, I'd take Trevor Lawrence. I'd go there.
Yeah, give me him. And it looks like Jacksonville, with their record, is in a position to have some pretty good draft opportunities this coming season as well. Another story, Shannon, I know it's in your notes for today's show. Klay Thompson of the Golden State Warriors. As we mentioned, Warriors in Dallas tonight to take on your Mavericks. Warriors best record right now in the NBA. And tonight, of course, as we discussed, Dirk Nowitzki's number 41 Mavericks jersey will be retired at the end of the game. But Klay Thompson coming back reportedly soon for the Golden State Warriors. What do we know about that story?
There's rumor that he will make his return, likely if he does, on Sunday, which is the Warriors hosting the Cleveland Cavaliers. So I don't know if, just that alone is enough to raise ticket prices. But then you throw in, okay, Klay Thompson possibly coming back after being sidelined for 2.5 years. On Ticketmaster, tickets are going for as much as $14,000 a piece.
My God.
And I just don't know who's buying those, given that it's not written in stone. We don't know for a fact that he's going to make his return. We also don't know, okay, if he makes his return, what are we going to see out of him, and how much are we going to get out of him? Are they going to take it easy on him? And either also, like Klay Thompson, yes, Splash Brothers, we love to see it, but that's a lot of money for that guy, for people to go see that guy.
Yeah.
A LeBron James coming back after a long absence, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, really? $14,000?
I think there's all that Silicon Valley money, though, that Warriors fans, I think a lot of them have just, I know, I think they've got an obscene amount of money. But you make a great point. You don't know for sure that he's coming back on Sunday. And even if he does, there's got to be a minutes restriction on him. I mean, how big of an event can it be?
Yeah. Are they going to have like a video tribute? I mean, why? That and your Silicon thing makes sense now. They're just raising the price.
There's just a ton of money there among Warriors fans. But think about it, Shannon. If he comes back and is 70% as good as he used to be, or God forbid for his opponents, 100% of what he used to be, my God, the Golden State Warriors, they went through that little slump. They got some draft picks like Weissman and some other key players. Now you're going to bring back Klay Thompson. We might have to put up with the Warriors again for about another 5 years after the previous dynasty we went through.
Yeah, they're currently number one in the West at 29-7. So they're doing just fine without Klay. Throw him back in there. KD is going to be wishing, I think, that he was back on the Warriors with the way the Nets are playing right now.
Back to the National Football League, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers haven't made it official yet, but appear to be poised to make it official that Antonio Brown is gone. Shannon, that would mean an open roster spot for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers headed into the playoffs. We have a Pro Football Hall of Famer, a gold jacket Hall of Famer wants to maybe take that roster spot in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, Terrell Owens, it's not surprising that he's voicing that I would love to play for the Bucs, because who wouldn't want to play for the team that just won a Super Bowl championship, has Tom Brady as their quarterback, and is likely to make somewhat of a run in the playoffs, if not get back to the championship game. I mean, that's like saying, do you want a free ring? Yeah, sure, why not? And the fact that it's him and how, he's I'll come back. He does this, seems like every year, right? Showing the videos of himself sprinting or doing whatever, saying how in shape he is. But if you're an organization who just got rid of Antonio Brown, do you really want the original version of Antonio Brown coming to your team during the playoffs? I don't think so. I wouldn't take that. Hard pass.
Yeah, T.O., I just Googled him. He's 48 years old. I mean, wide receiver skills, unless your name is Jerry Rice, wide receiver skills diminish after age 35. And I saw him again this week, as you mentioned, those videos of him working out. Isn't it kind of, if not a long time ago, has already gotten a little pathetic for T.O.? Isn't it time for T.O. to maybe let this all go and do something else?
Yeah, he's got a lot to let go at this point. He's been holding on for far too long.
My goodness. And finally, I know we're up against it, but Jalen Hurts, he's in the news a little bit as well, correct?
Yes, we talked yesterday about the Philadelphia Eagles fans after their game in Washington were leaning over the railing, as most fans do when players go into the tunnel, to try to get a high five or a wave or something from Jalen Hurts. And he was there when those fans came crashing down 6 feet into the tunnel, thanks to the very well-built FedEx Stadium there in Washington. And Washington yesterday announcing that they will make an announcement of their new team name in February, kind of push the story of these Eagles fans getting hurt and not getting medical attention from anyone in Washington, making sure that they were okay, kind of push that story down. Jalen Hurts ends up bringing it back up by writing a letter to Washington, asking them to take care of the situation. And as I said yesterday, we're probably going to see some Eagles fans suing Washington for this. So I don't think this story is going away, especially when you have Jalen Hurts, quarterback of the Eagles, voicing his concerns.
Good for Jalen. I'm glad he did that. It's the right thing to do.
Stand up for your fans.
Amen. Shannon Salty Sweeney, outstanding as always. Let's do it again in 21 hours?
Yeah, why not? I'll be here.
Let's do it. Yeah, we'll do it again. Jeremy, we have no idea if the Iron Man of audio will be here tomorrow.
Confirm or deny that I will be here.
All right, well,
I'll be here sometime.
Enjoy the 6 other shows you're going to work today and tonight. Thanks for being here, Jeremy. Great work. Our thanks to Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs. Have yourself a great Wednesday. The weekend's almost here. Adios. All right, y'all. Farewell. Jason, Sam, Louisa, James, Dean, John, Jesse, Jorge. Beth, Settle, whoever else may still be here. We will see you tomorrow. Farewell.